Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of our athlete series for the Teenage CrossFit Games by Pitt Teen Throwdown. Today we'll be discussing everything you need to know about your grips, from how to use them, the difference between those that use fingerless versus finger grips, and pretty much anything that you need to be successful with them both on the bar and the rings. Our sponsor for today is Victory Grips. They're proud to craft premium products entirely in the USA, where quality is their priority. With a unique fusion of utility and design patents, they ensure top tier craftsmanship in every piece. This is a brand that truly is committed to their athletes, drawing inspiration from gymnastics grips. Their design prioritizes performance enhancement without compromising wrist or finger mobility. Vic Pellegrino, who we'll speak to in just a moment, is the co founder and product designer who was a competitive gymnast and has been involved in CrossFit since 2009 as both an athlete and an affiliate owner. The products are engineered to empower athletes at all levels, removing barriers on their path to victory. And now we want to welcome in Vic Pellegrino. He is the co-founder and designer of Victory Grips. And of course, we would expect to see you in a gym with bars, with rings, all of the things that we use with our grips.
Of course.
How are you? How's everything been this season and just traveling to all these different competitions?
It's been great. I own an affiliate in Savannah, CrossFit Y'all. It's also called Victory Gym, the DBA's Victory Gym, and it was fun to see, having an affiliate and doing the whole community thing and everybody participating in the open, and then seeing some unexpected players qualify for quarterfinals, which was a lot of fun. So, now that's kind of like go, proceeding with the rest of the season. We're looking forward to attending events and getting to see everybody again, all our old friends out in the broader community.
And that's something that I really love. I go to almost all of the events, most of the same events that you go to, and just seeing you work one on one with folks, I think is incredibly helpful. And we'll kind of go through some of those tutorials that you give and help our viewers with how you pick the right grips. But let's first talk about how many grips have you designed over the years? Because I'm so curious about that.
Way too many. Way too many. I promised my wife, Wendy, who is my business partner, that I would stop designing at least grips for CrossFit for right now. And Gosh, I mean, we're the only brand that has a women's line as well. We have men's and women's. We have that. I have three different materials, two different styles. So the complexity is way too much. But I keep on seeing a need, and based on my observations and communications with athletes, I'm always refining, just like an athlete would working on weaknesses and just honing their craft. I view it as the same way. This is my way of competing now.
Well, and if you've never used grips before, you might just think, oh, grips are grips. It's going to protect my hand. It's going to give me a little bit of extra grip strength. But once you get into it, it's like, no, I need the perfect grips. They must do X, Y, and Z. So I can only imagine the rabbit holes you've gone down with the design process. But I compare it almost to sneakers. We
Yeah.
look at a new design of a shoe and they're planning over a year on what that new version of something is going to look like. Can you compare grips to shoes? What does the design process look like for you?
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy, and it's an analogy we always use. So, shoes obviously have been around for a long time. CrossFit, has not been around for a long time, even though it's starting to seem that way now. But so you know, shoes have evolved, mostly, with Nike back in the '60s and '70s with Bill Bowerman and how he wanted to create a better shoe. And so I was a competitive gymnast growing up, and that's where the whole concept of grips, originated from. and then comes CrossFit, and the demands are very different than from gymnastics. The volume is higher. The movements, there's some base movements that are similar, um, but it has imposed more demands on what is required of your hands. And so, just like shoes, you have sprinting, you have long distance, you have different ways of how people have body mechanics, and so CrossFit has opened up this whole industry of of evolving gymnastic scripts into something it's absolutely crazy to me, just because of it's something simple. It's something so simple, but you could just add so much technology and study to it that it becomes both a science and an art.
Let's get into the different types of grips, how to use grips. Let's start with what is the like biggest thing you see people using grips the wrong way? Is there one thing and you have to change it immediately?
Uh, yeah, there's a couple of things, and I know that when we're speaking to like the teen athletes, they're awesome athletes, and they kind of they know what they're doing. A lot of them have been gymnasts before, but it's mostly like when I work with adults who don't have a gymnastics background, and they're not as athletic and catch things as quick as a younger athlete is. But um, so there's, and I'm grabbing a couple of grips right now. So one of the things is just the way people think that grips should be like a second skin, that they should fit really tight on their hands and almost like a glove, and it's just simply for protection. But that's not the case. So some people, and then also when they grip a bar, they'll come and they just finger grip the bar. So proper gymnastics
Guilty.
is to get your knuckles over the bar, grab and sink down into it, so it puts your wrist and your shoulder in a better position. So if you're using grips with, let's say, the finger holes, you want to have this fold of material between the bar and your fingers to be by your fingertips. And
Mm.
people don't realize about that fold, or their grips are not long enough so that that fold fits by the fingertips, because your fingertips are super active when you grip a bar. So the three finger grips, are best for people who wrap their thumb around the bar. That's proper gymnastics technique, but I'm not here to judge people's technique of whether they monkey grip or whether they have their finger under the bar. But if you have your finger under the bar, the best grips would be for the to go for the three finger grips. The other fault is that people they want to wear their grips way far down on their hand like this,
Mhm.
and they should actually be moved all the way up to the base of the palm at the wrist. So this area right here, obviously your hand is broader than your wrist. That acts as the anchor point. And so your grips need something to essentially grip onto or anchor to on your wrist, and that's the area. So inevitably you're going to feel some pressure because you're doing pulling forces, and so that's helping you hold on. So you got to have your grips all the way snugged up against the bottom of your palm.
So then if you are a monkey gripper, that would be me, not the good gymnastics form. Is that when you would recommend to use the fingerless grips because it's a little bit of a different technique?
Yes, and absolutely, because when you uh, when you wrap your thumb, your knuckles actually drop down a little bit on the bar. But when you get your thumb on top, you have your knuckles actually move on top of the bar. And by moving your knuckles on top of the bar, this is where it lends so that your fingerless grips are going to be the better grip if you monkey grip the bar. You could still use the three finger grips and monkey grip the bar. But it's just a matter of preference. I know you see the majority of athletes out there now are going fingerless. They're just flapping the grips over the bar. But I think it's always good to revisit, the way you grip or the style of grips you have, just to continuously modify and perfect which grips are going to be the best for you and which way of gripping is going to be the best for you.
Now, obviously, the athletes that we're talking to, they might already have a preference or what they're going to be using for the rest of their season. But if we want to just look a little bit ahead, if an athlete, especially because the teens, they have a long lifespan in this sport, if they're
Yep.
looking to really continue to compete at the highest level, maybe after the season's over, they want to tinker with some of their gymnastics. Is there a way that you recommend, whether doing the sloth or the monkey grip is better versus the gymnastics style holding with your thumb?
Yeah, it comes down to, well, there's movements, different movements, and the way you grip involved. It comes into play. If you are doing toes to bar, it is not as essential to wrap your thumb under the bar. What wrapping your thumb under the bar does, it like creates leverage. So if I were to try to break this bar that I'm holding in my hands right now, and if I'm have my thumbs on top, it's going to be hard for me to break this bar and to create enough force on that bar using my lats. But if I was to wrap my thumb underneath the bar, then I have this counterweight underneath the bar, and then I could create leverage by using my shoulders and mostly my lats to create more force on the bar. So and toes to bar, you're not rotating a lot on the bar, and you're obviously not going from underneath the bar to above the bar like a bar muscle ups. So that's when just monkey gripping your bar may be the best technique for you. And then you could just pretty much rest on your grips. But if you're doing bar muscle ups, I think it would be good for an athlete to kind of play with what works best for them. And that's one thing that I've learned, just from being a gymnast. Like, you're like, you have your gymnastics technique and this is the way you do it. But what CrossFit has done, and it's neither good nor bad, but it just, people are just figuring out the best way, the best techniques that work for them. And I think honestly, in conjunction with a good coach that's guiding you, finding what works best for you, whether you wrap your thumb or not, I mean, that's what you go with. Because at the end of the day, it's your competition, it's your body, you know it works, and you want to get the job done the best you can so you could place high as possible on the leaderboard or even win. So,
And that's
yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
and that's why I love that you guys have so many different options. So we have the fingerless, and then we have the ones that you can actually put your fingers in. But a big thing about grips is also material, because you show up to a
Yep.
competition and I know at my affiliate there are certain spiel bars, and those are the ones that I love to use. But then you show up to in person, and there's not always spiel bars. You have spiel, you have coated, you have all of these different variables. But Victory Grips has created specific grips almost for each bar. Is that how you would explain it?
Absolutely, 100%. So, the two grips that I actually have on my right hand, I have what we call the X2 material. It's a white material, and it's essentially a synthetic leather. And on my left hand, I have a rubber base grip. This is the Apex that we have on, but it has a rubber coated grip. So the the leather or synthetic leather grips, the reason why they're the best choice for a steel bar, or a bare steel bar, is because that softness of the material could get into the textures of the oxidized bar, because we all know that the more a steel bar or a bare steel bar rusts, the better it feels, because you can just
Mhm.
its texture. So the leather or the synthetic leather kind of gets into those grooves and creates that coefficient of friction, which is basically grippiness. But if a powder coated bar, like Rogue bars, have a texture powder coat, and especially when they're new, they're going to have a nice texture on them. So with some chalk is essential on leather, or on synthetic leather, you're going to get a great grip on a powder coated bar. And, you're going to the games. Rogue is supplying some good new bars. And so you're going to be fine with with a leather or synthetic leather grip. But over time, bars get slick. Powder coated bars get slick, and they need something better to grip into, and that's where rubber based materials. We were the first to come out with a rubber based material grip, and the rubber, just with the compound, just the way the compound is, it really sticks to a slick powder coated bar. It's kind of like a racing slick tire. You got that smooth tire, and it sticks into the asphalt really well. Same kind of principle goes with the rubber based grip. But there's one thing we've learned with grips and chalk. I mean, even chalk comes into play. So a lot of gyms are not allowing chalk, or some athletes don't prefer
Oh.
chalk. It's kind of wild. So we have a rule: clean bar, clean grips; chalked bar, chalk grips. So if you're using a rubber-based grip, the best thing to do is, if you want a really nice like grippiness, is to clean the bar. Like, I use either alcohol because it dries really quick, or you could use vinegar, or you could use water. But it will clean the bar, and then do the same with the grips. Strip the chalk off the grips, and that's going to give your best grippiness on the bar, if you could control your environment. But if you can't control your environment, or let's say it's super sweaty situation, chalk is going to be essential. So chalk the grips and chalk the bar if you're using rubber coated grips, because if one is chalked and the other is, you're going to slide. You need the chalk on chalk interaction. But in terms of the games, what we're supplying all the teens with the X2 grips in the fingerless style, because that is the most popular. So you're
Mhm.
going to need chalk anyway, and these grips are going to do you super well um, when you're competing at the games, or any competition where road bars are.
For athletes like games athletes who we're speaking to, what should the lifespan of a grip be with all of the volume that they're doing and competing at the highest level? I try to think of always have an extra pair of grips in my bag just in case, but if these athletes are trying to have a rotation of knowing when to order and having enough in their bag, what does that look like?
Yeah, there was a conversation I had with Chris Henshaw. We all know who Chris
Mm,
is,
of course.
and obviously he was a elite level professional runner, and so we were talking about this subject, and he said what professional runners do is they have three pairs of shoes at any one time. They have the shoes that they're wearing currently and training in. They have a pair of shoes that is brand new, and they have a pair of shoes that is partially broken in. So when it comes down, and they rotate between those three pairs of shoes. So when it comes to a competition, you change to the shoes that are slightly broken in. Don't go into a competition with gear that is really worn out, especially with grips. Especially if they're more than, I would say, I wouldn't even chance it for 3 months old grips, because of the type of volume and intensity that a elite level competitive CrossFitter is doing. Just have a pair that's like broken in, they feel good, and then you could be confident when you go into a competition, a very high profile competition, that your grips are going to hold up. So I would say that's the same for grips as it is what Chris said with shoes. Have a good three pairs on board. The athletes we support, we make sure that they have an arsenal of grips that they're rotating through, so at any one time you're not going to have an issue with them. So go into the competition with a backup pair, but also go into the competition with a pair of grips that is slightly broken in, and that are just going to make you secure and get you through the competition without issue.
Is there a process to breaking grips in? Because over the years, I've seen people do some crazy things with like a knife and they're trying to make it rougher and they're like doing all of these things. Like, should you have to do that, or is it just getting a couple of training sessions under your belt? What is the best way?
Well, it depends on the grips that you have. If it's easier with rubber-based grips because you're not necessarily needing chalk. You just need to break them in a little bit, and then from that perspective, it's just a matter of using them to just kind of loosen them up and allow them to form to your hand. Now, leather or synthetic leather grips is a different story. And I'm grabbing the other pair of grips. So when you first get these type of grips, you need to get you need to break up the fibers. You need to get that the nappiness of the leather or the synthetic leather going, and you also need to get chalk embedded in them. And this is a trick, and this is a way that gymnasts use. Uh, Gymnasts break in their grips. So at my chalk bucket right here, we always have like some water to spray into, um, like a little rubber brush. I mean a steel brush, and we also have alcohol for rubber-based grips too.
Hmm.
So, but when
You
you
have it
first,
all.
yeah, we had it all. So it's basically like when you go to the Olympics or you watch the Olympics, you see the gymnasts at the chalk bucket, and they
Yeah.
got water, they got a brush, they got all this thing. All right, so this is basically what they're doing, and I'm going to try to move this thing down a little bit so you can see kind of the chalk bucket that I'm doing. So what I would do is get just the water and just spray a little bit of water. You could get a little squirt bottle, or you could also use a water fountain, but it's best to use like a squirt bottle. And then you get chalk. You get a lot of chalk, and you just cake it in. You get you literally like just like as if you were like somebody just sneezed all over you, and you feel nasty, and you got to wash the heck out of your hands, and you just chalk them up really well, and then rub the grips together, and that's going to create a good nappiness on the grips, and the chalk is going to be embedded in there. So when you go and jump up, they're going to feel super grippy. Um, and that's also a little trick with these with leather or synthetic leather grips is that like a little bit of water or moisture and chalk is going to make them feel grippy. So if you're in the middle of a workout, you can do two things, because obviously you're not going to have water there. You're not going to just splash your drinking water on there. You could either spit in your grips, but
I've seen a lot of that over the years.
yeah, or you could literally just like you're obviously going to be sweating, swipe the sweat off your arms or off your brow, and then use that as the moisture and chalk up real quick, and that's going to give you a little extra tack on the bar, so you're not getting as much slide. Um, and then also, to that point, protecting your hands. Always chalk your hands. Always make sure that your hands are chalked. And the reason being is chalk does two things. It controls moisture and controls slide. And so if your hands are moist, the skin is getting soft. It's like being in a pool or a tub for too long. And then also, it's going to help your hands from sliding too much.
Mhm.
And of course, we know sliding creates friction. Friction creates heat. Heat makes, and it just going to make your hands rip. So chalk your hands with grips on.
And then one more question. We've talked a lot about the rig, but what about rings?
Yeah. So good. So let me switch over
Huh,
to
there
here,
they are.
and there they are. So the best grips for rings, honestly, are two finger, and then our two finger grips were designed after men's ring grips for the sport of artistic gymnastics. And the reason why those grips are the best grips for rings is because obviously a ring is in a circle, And when you're gripping the bar, you could it's not going to bunch up on the sides. Like, so because the fingerless grips or three finger
Mhm.
are wider in nature, so this is going to create a more minimalist feel. It's going to allow a lot more skin on the bar, um, and but you're also going to have that benefit of having that natural dexterity, skin on the bar, but then with a little extra security and protection of the grip. Um, and again, that dowel effect or that fold of material between the rings and the rings in your hand and your fingers, that's essential. Um, you can go fingerless. You'll see Brooke Wells do this a lot. But as you drop your chest and get
Mhm.
fatigued, this material could get wrapped underneath in between the bar, I mean, between the rings and your hand and lock you up. And I see that especially with, with people that drop their chest in a bar muscle up or even a ring muscle up. Um, so you got to be very careful about that. Of course, Brooke is a former gymnast, and she's just awesome, and she's able to drive her chest up, and you're going to be able to prevent that. But I would always recommend just put your fingers in the holes, just be safe, and you're going to be able to get a good enough grip. But two finger grips are for rings. All our grips sweep across the pinky side of the hand to protect your wrist during strict muscle ups. So when you get into that nook of
Oh,
right here,
yeah.
that's the reason why it sweeps across. And so you get
Ah.
like, so let's say that strict muscle ups are programmed in this. Yeah, you're gonna.
Ah!
Yeah,
Everybody freaks out, but you got the good grips.
yeah, exactly. Oh, another
And
thing, real quick, is
yeah,
like
go
with
ahead.
these fingerless grips, you can pull them straight back, and they stay out
I
of the
don't
way.
think I've ever seen that. What a great idea.
It's just because of the false grip protection right here
Yeah.
adds a little bit of material, so then you can pull them back, and so you could do double unders or cycle a barbell, and they're not going to come around. But of course, you could always flip them across the back of your hand. So either which way,
Either or works. And
yeah.
you will be at the games for the teens, is that correct?
We won't have a booth there, but in support, yes.
Okay. Well, then we have a lot of knowledge to digest. Can people reach out to you for questions? How can they contact you if they watch this video and have some follow-ups?
The best thing to do, the easiest way, is Instagram. The Victory Grips Instagram. So
Mhm.
my our organic social manager Ellen, who was also she's also an athlete. She competed on a team in the games, so she knows what she's talking about. She's been with us a long time, as well as myself, because we tag team back and forth and help field the variety of questions that people have. So just direct message us. Um, if you have a question directly for me, just say, "Hey, Vic," dot dot dot. Just let me know. So yeah. I mean, it's as easy. It's as easy as that.
Well, perfect. Vic, thank you so much. I can't wait to personally go into the gym and now play around with all of the things that I've learned this last couple of minutes together. But thank you for giving us all of this information. Super insightful for the athletes. And I'm sure I will see you later in the season.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.